Win up to £25,000. The Community Lottery, a subscription-based lottery that allows you to continue to support good causes that matter. When you win, good causes win. Every month, eligible good causes have the opportunity to win a share of funds that could help them continue the good work that they do in our communities. To apply, there's no complicated forms, nor do you have to be a registered charity. Just grab your phone, send us a 60-second video explaining your good cause and the difference having extra funding would make to your project. Visit thecommunitylottery.com. Hit the play button and sign up for either 13 weekly draws or by direct debit for just £4.35 that gives you 4 weekly draws. You could have the chance of winning £25,000. The aim of the Community Lottery is to create an additional source of funding that will enable good causes to undertake innovative projects that matter. If you're in, the communities win.
Right.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening and welcome to another edition of What a Week right here on MediaNet Live TV alongside myself, Mr. C, and hopefully later on we'll also be having Tony Crossbody. In the meantime, please remember to like, subscribe and to share, but most importantly, joining with the comments right here online via Facebook or YouTube. So to kick things off today, I have two amazing guests as regards to black film and also black TV and just TV and film in general. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my special guest today, Marlon Palmer from Kush Films, and also Nathan Byron, comedian, actor, and writer, and also creator of Sky's new comedy sitcom Bloods. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hi.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. First and foremost, thank you, because I know both of you are busy, for taking time out of your absolutely hectic schedule to come and join us and our viewers here. Marlon, straight to you first, sir. Why, you're looking dapper, man. I thought I was looking good with my hat, but Marlon, you took it to another level, boy.
Thank you, sir. I try.
You do more than try, man. Master, you do more than try. I love the background. Kush Films, film boutique as well. So is this a place where ladies can go and get their nails done and their feet done while they're watching films? Or talk to me. What's Film Boutique?
well, the Film Boutique is the UK's longest running black film club, and basically, originally it was the Kush Film Club, and when we got to the West End, it became the Kush Film Boutique, and we were in the West End for just until recently, over 10 years.
10 years in the West End, man. Come on, celebrate that, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah, thank you. Opening doors to some of the most prestigious cinemas in the UK, screening films at the Odeon Cinema Covent Garden for over a year, Prince Charles Cinema, Leicester Square, was at Regent Street Cinema for over 2 years until recently. But most cinemas in the West End are at some stage screened films at, and the Kush Film Boutique is a film club known for bringing the best black films, exclusive and film premieres, mainstream films as well as independent films, and also back in the day, I'm one of the first to start screening matching short films with feature films and screening short film before the mainstream feature. And allowing independent filmmakers to see their films on the big screen before a big mainstream release. So Yeah, been running that for 23 years. It is mainly filled with ladies. 65% of my audience are women, black
There
women.
you go, lonely men. That's a good place for you to go and find new women. Yeah.
No, we don't want no lonely men there.
Forget about Tinder and plenty of dirty fish in the deep blue sea.
Yeah.
Kush Film Boutique, 65% women. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, so you got a good chance to your left or to your right. Could be your future wife.
I remember they're classy women, very classy women. You know, they've always my audience has always known how to behave themselves. Well, after a few years, they all knew how to behave themselves. I'd have to tell no one to turn their mobile phone off or to do this or do that. Everyone comes there. I mean, and again, obviously, as you know, we get a lot of the black actors who come down there. A lot of the older ones, as well, more mature ones, I should say. You know, Chucky Venice and Ellen Thomas and Cyril and Jimmy Akabolo and quite a few of the others who will come down and support. You know, various.
Melamines father is always there as well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And Melamine's passed through it occasionally. Everyone's passed through at some stage or another. So that's the film club, and it's, you know, it's always been about creating public access to black films. And again, you know, it's not like now. Back in the day, it was totally different. I had to fight, you know, to get into cinemas and to carry black films into these cinemas.
Well, we'll get into all of that. We'll get into all of that in a little while, Marlon. We'll look at the history of and your journey of what you're doing. Young man Nathan Byron, I want to say, man, that fro that you've got, my brother, that is the samurai warrior of all afros.
I come out for you. Well, I didn't, not really, but just, you know, I did a little something for you.
You know what I'm saying? So look, for those of you who are not familiar with Nathan, please, Nathan, tell our viewers who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name's Nathan Bryan. I'm an actor, writer, author. I've got a series of kids' books out at the moment called Look Up and Clean Up. You can buy them at pretty much any bookshop. My new Sky TV series is called Bloods, and it's out now. You can see it on Now TV or on Sky One. Please watch it. Tell your mates about it. I think it's good. I hope you do too.
Well, look, there you go. So look, first and foremost, want to say a few good evenings to some of our viewers. Karen James, good evening to yourself. And Tegan Allison, big up yourself as always. Charmaine Bradshaw and also Angela Cozier, good evening to you all. So coming back to yourself, Marlon, being in the West End for 10
Can I just say good evening to everyone as well also?
Yeah, hi.
Thank you. Good evening.
It's nice to see people with manners, isn't it? Eh? Oh my gosh.
We're old school. We're born with manners. we had to have it. Otherwise you get beaten.
Yeah. So Marlon, what made you decide that you wanted to set up a black film boutique, a black film club, and most important, why? What was the reasoning behind it?
Well, back in those days, you know, seems like a long time ago now, 1998, when I first started, we didn't have the array of, you know, black films now on small screen, big screen. In those days, I just felt I wasn't seeing, you know, representation of my culture on the big screen. And I was a film fan. And you know, there were films in those days, even Denzel Washington films. I mean, you know, he wasn't the major star he is now, but he was becoming a star. But there were certain films that weren't being released here in the UK. They had been released in America, but not in the UK.
Right.
So I just wanted to, I don't know, it was like a mission to change things and make a difference. And again, it was an extension because, you know, I come from Tottenham, the London borough of Tottenham. The old rough neighborhood was always burning down the place and rioting. And yeah, it's like I just kind of got to a point where I used to be, you know, a different person. I used to be a different person and used to be on the streets of North London.
So hold on. When you say a different person, what do you mean a different person? Was you a woman before? Because a different person means so much different things now. So, you know.
Well, basically, yeah, I used to be on the streets. So, you know what I mean? I would simply say in those days, people used to know me as Marlon Brando. So they used to call me Brando. They still call me Brando to this day. You know what I mean? If I go back down to
Tottenham.
No, really,
I was a different kind of person. Yeah,
Well, I did grow up. I did grow up on the Broadwater Farm Estates, and used to hang around grew up with the guys all around there, basically. And was there
Big up
for
Winston Silcott and the man them.
all the man they grow me still. You know what I mean?
Legendary.
We went through the whole of the times, the riots and the whole thing with all that, with PC Blakelock and all that kind of stuff.
Of course, man. The liberation of our people and our youth, and again fighting back against the oppression of the police state that which was rife throughout the whole of London, and again areas such as Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool. We saw the same kind of reflection. People call it riots, but it was our way of saying enough is enough.
It was a reaction, at the end of the day. So we kind of that's where I kind of grew up with. And then back in the day, I used to keep raves and parties and dances and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of was in entertainment, but more on the Playboy side of stuff, and keeping raves and dances and champagne and brandy and all that kind of stuff, and crocodile skin shoes and lizard skin shoes and all that sort of stuff. But I just kind of came to the end of the road of that, and I realized that there was more to life. I wanted to do more in life for myself, and I realized I needed to change. And so I was one of the fortunate ones that was able to take myself out of that and find something new to do and reinvent myself and kind of start my life again. I even went to church for a year and got baptized and started all over again, basically. I didn't last too long in the church, though.
I noticed when you said I went to church for a year.
Well, exactly. I'm not really a man.
I gave myself to the Lord, and he gave me back.
No, he's still with me today. His Bible's still on my bed to this day, and I still give thanks and praise every single day that I get up. But I'm just not one for rules and regulations. You know what I mean? I'm the only person who's really that I talk to and is guiding me is the man that's upstairs. Nobody else, So and I've always seen myself as a leader. I've always kind of wanted to do my own thing and work for myself. Exactly. So I just kept. I don't know. It's like for many years I didn't even know how I started Kush. It just seemed like it was something given to me from a higher place. I remember walking into the cinema one day. There was a cinema at the bottom of my grandmother's road in Turnpike Lane, North London, and I walked in. It was an Indian man who ran the cinema, and there's Indian films there. And I just walked into the cinema and said, "Look, I want to start showing films here." And believe me, I didn't even have a plan. I just had the intention. I didn't have a plan. I didn't even have the money, but I had the intention. And as I've grown to learn as a bigger man now and a more wiser man, that the starting point of anything is the intention. The intention is the real power. And pause. Because sometimes on this show, when people say something with you, where you're dropping wisdoms, man, we have to have that moment for the people to take that in. So again, tell them again, please, Marlon, that the most important thing is intention. A lot of people have heard of the law of attraction, all that kind of stuff. Well, this is the basis of it. It's the intention. It's deep desire within you. It's that relationship that you create between whatever you want to do and making it manifest into reality, basically. So I just had the intention, and I walked into the cinema and said, "Look, I want to start showing black films in here." Well, no, I said I want to start showing films, and the man said to me, "What kind of films? What, dirty films?" And I said, "No, I want to start showing black films."
That kind of look about you.
I know, but in those days, black films. What's black films? They didn't know what black films is. What's a black film? He said to me. I said, Denzel Washington, Samuel Jackson, those kind of films. And he said to me, "No." He said he's not the manager. He said, "Come back and see the manager."
All right.
Then one day I was walking past, the same man ran out, come and called me. Turned out he was the manager. He was lying to me. He was lying to me, and he goes, "Oh, when do you want to start showing films?" Because it looks like they were desperate for money at that time. He started thinking now. So I said, I want to start. I want to start soon. And I had a contact, and this girl, she was showing films as well over in South London, and she was the one we decided to partner up, and we got. I was lucky. I was able to get Ice Cube's directional debut, which is The Players Club, and
wow, that was your first film.
That was the first film that we did. That was the premiere screening of
Players Club.
The Players Club.
I remember it, man.
It was an old grotty old cinema with 500 seats though, with rats running around. And I even managed to get some of the Tottenham Hotspur footballers down there. We've got Les Ferdinand, Rule Fox, and Clive Wilson. Nathan won't remember these old school players.
I know Les Ferdinand.
You know Les Ferdinand, yeah. Sir, they call him Sir Les now.
Yes,
So,
Les.
they came down and was there, and it was in the newspapers, everything. It was fantastic, and that was the beginnings of Kush.
Well done, man. Well done. So look, just before I come to you, Nathan, why the name Kush? Why did you choose the name Kush? What was the meaning behind that?
Well, again, this is part of my rebirth, basically. So part of my rebirth was that my sister, she gave me a Bible, and the Bible what she gave to me was called the African Heritage Bible, and it's a King James version of the Bible, and that's the Bible that's still on my bed today. So it's a big Bible, leather bound, and it's called African Heritage Bible, and it's a King James version, but it's from a black perspective in terms of that it was some black pastors, priests, or whatever you want to call them in America, who actually created the Bible, used the King James version, but they in the forward and in the back bit.
Conclusion.
What is the conclusion? It's not even a conclusion because it's so much in there. It's the whole history.
Wow.
Linking all the names in the Bible and the tribes and everything to Africa. And this is where I first learnt about the Kushites. And the Kushites is an ancient African civilization, a mighty civilization that many of us to this day don't even know about, which is amazing. And which is, the Kushite, which is the land that, again, new people know as Nubia, and which is present day Sudan, and also Upper Egypt. And if you go to the Sudan today, they have over 300 pyramids in the Sudan today, which people don't even know about. Everyone knows about the pyramids in Egypt, the Great Pyramids, but they have some smaller pyramids in Sudan, and over 300 pyramids of black kings and queens. And when I read about all of that, that empowered me, and I then wanted to empower my people. So I wanted them to know that we were once kings and queens, and that's where the whole Kush comes from. That's why
fantastic,
my company's called Kush Films.
So, Nathan, as a young man growing up, what was the first black film that you can remember watching where you thought to yourself, wow,
that's a good question. I've got there's many, obviously, but one of the ones which I always get in trouble when I say it, but it was one of the moments where I always knew I wanted to work in comedy, and it was Soul Plane.
Soul Plane, Kevin Hart. Is it Kevin Hart?
Snoop Dogg.
These were back in the days where, I had no money, so I had a pirate DVD, and it was the only pirate DVD I had, and I watched it, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 times. I could do it line for line. I thought that was the funniest movie of all time. So that's always been one that's always one of the first that was whatever these guys are doing, I want to do that.
So your journey, Nathan, did you start off as an actor? Did you start off as a writer? Did you start off as a comedian? How did you start off? I started off as a young actor. Do you know what I mean? So I was at school when I left. I didn't get great A levels, so I kind of left, and I just my mum sent me to a 4-week course that the council did at the Lyric Hammersmith, and that basically you have to audition to get into it, but at the end of the 4 week you put on a play, but they've got a proper production. They don't pay you because it's obviously a council thing, but it's they put on a big thing. So anyway, I did this thing for 4 weeks, and we did this show, and the show was apparently quite good. And that was a moment I was like, I love acting. This is it. So after that show, I was about 16, and I got a job as an usher at the theatre, and I was watching these tribe plays that were 3 hours long. Some of them were amazing, some of them were just shoot me bad. What it taught me was what is theatre, a lesson of writing. It just taught me so much. It was my school. So so I'm an actor first. I got signed, got an agent, done some telly shows, whatever, and Well, of course, for those of you who are looking at Nathan's face, and of course he's here and thinking, I know this face from somewhere. Nathan is currently, well, sorry, I should not say currently, has been in many series of Benidorm. So that's where you've probably seen his face. And oh, yes. But we're going to come back to you, Nathan, as regards to your journey and also, most importantly, where you're at now with Bloods on Sky One. I know, Marlon, you're pressed for time this evening. So I want to speak to you.
I'm enjoying the conversation. So it's half an hour's gone already. So I don't know. I may stay to the end.
Oh, there you go. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. But beforehand, it was like, boy, we have to leave at 5:30 and I'm coming around about another 3 more pressing engagements. And I said, oh, boy. And I was like, well, you know, the conversation is nice. I'm enjoying myself here. People let me fly tonight.
No, it's good, absolutely. You know, and we're here with the younger guy, the younger man, Nathan. It's good to, you know, engage, and we all kind of, you know, get that
perspective,
and exchange that energy, and you know, get to know each other. Yeah.
So look, Marlon, you forever showcasing films, which, you know, sometimes we wouldn't see the films if it wasn't for you. So I know that you're currently working on Freddy Krueger's new film. You're going to be showcasing that this Sunday. Tell us a little bit about that partnership with yourself and Freddy, and lead into the actual film itself and what's happening on Sunday, please.
Well, we're doing a big screening, you know, on online this Sunday on the 16th of May. So at 5 p.m. And this is, again, all part of what's happened recently with the pandemic. So, you know, the pandemic has basically forced me to rethink things, pivot my business and move online. So I built a brand new virtual screening room, it's a virtual cinema and screening rooms, and I can now show films online. So during the pandemic, thank you,
beautiful,
sir.
man.
Thank you.
Beautiful. I love that, man.
Yeah, people can, it's myscreenhub.com. So anyone wants to show films online now, they can come to us and we can show films online. And this is a black-led company that owns its own virtual screening rooms. Filmmakers, event organizers, even if you just want to do your own private film party for your own family, or whatever, or, you know, a public event for mass audiences, or councils want to do anything, they can come to us and hire a screening room. So during the pandemic, I've known Freddie a long time as well, because, you know, we kind of a similar background from the streets of London, and you know, we've moved forward and changed our lives, and we're in the film business, all that kind of stuff. So last year during the pandemic, I can't remember how I found out that I think we just started talking, and then he said he had this film, and we were actually talking about releasing it, working together to help him release the film theatrically. But, you know, at that time, we thought it was all going to be over within a short space of time.
Didn't we all?
Yeah, exactly. And then it just kept going on and on and on. So eventually he just did his own thing and he released it online. So he sold it to a company, distribution company, a mainstream company, and they got the film. So now that I built my online platform, I just thought, you know, it's a British film. I want to support him as well with what he's doing. So I said, you know, I'll screen it. And so I couldn't go to Freddie anymore. I had to go to the distribution company and hire the film from them and get the film. And it's
big people things. You see that? The right channels. Even though he's not Freddie, he can't call Freddie. I forgot to the distribution.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the key.
It's like how it was on the streets.
Well, this is the key thing now. This is where I'm moving into now. And as I was kind of speaking to Nathan earlier and telling him about that, you know, during the pandemic, I've moved fully into distribution now, and I want to be that guy and be the only black man, as far as I know, in Europe. I don't know. I've not met any others who are distributors and that a filmmaker can come to, and, you know, I can actually then put the film in 200-300 cinema screens, or I can go to Netflix or go to Amazon and I can sell the film on their behalf. So using all my 23-year experience, that's what I've fully moved into now in regards to the next stage of us controlling our own films and controlling the narrative, and actually being able to get that money before it goes to other people, and then we get the scraps, basically, as is normally the case. So, the film that we screened on Sunday is a romantic comedy, a British romantic comedy with 2 black British leads, and it's about a man who's trying to find love. He hasn't had a girlfriend before about 15 years, and he's now trying to find that one.
You sure this is a black man's story?
You say it is
find a girl for 15 years?
Yeah, something like. Well,
no, he hasn't had a girlfriend for 15 years.
Exactly. There's a difference, isn't it?
There's a difference.
Right. So you
said it stars Kane Brown
and Judy Love, and also Slim's got a very small part in there, the comedian Slim. And it's also got a cameo from Vanessa Feltz in there as well. So we're screening that on Sunday.
Cast. It's online. An amazing cast.
Yeah, and there's some funny, but real funny parts in there with Judy Love. Judy Love before she kind of became the major star that she is now. Because you wouldn't get her
She's
now.
always been a major star.
Yeah.
We knew it. We're just waiting for the rest of the UK to catch up.
Catch up on it, and they have now. They have.
Yeah, they have.
So it's it's a nice, entertaining film, and it's good to see 2 black leads in a rom-com, as leads.
And is it watchable for the whole family, or is it kind of is it racy just for adults, or are there any kind of? Because I know there's some of the ladies want to know. Does Kane get his kit off? That's what the ladies want to know.
No. It's a 12. It's a 12 if I remember right.
It's a family friendly.
Yeah. So 12-year-olds up to 12 can watch it. So I mean, they might be innuendo, but nothing too really there's nothing graphic.
12 and older. Like 12 and above.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more funny than anything else. So we screened it on Sunday. We got a after film talk Q&A. So we're talking to the director Freddie afterwards. But the theme is going to be more about relationships and about love. So I've got Slim on there to come give us some jokes about love and finding love and that sort of stuff. And then I've also got my sisters on there. My sister Denise James, and my sister is a trained psychotherapist and also a new author who's just written a book called Back to Love. And
so her role there is what, for all the women to help the women.
Well, and the men, yes, because she's a psychotherapist. But she's going to be the expert on the mindset and on the way people go about things and why maybe we can't find the love that we're looking for and those kind of things.
That's a nice holistic all-round bit of entertainment there. So we've got the film, we've got the Q&A afterwards, we've got discussions, we've got comedy in there as well. Where can people find tickets or get further information?
Well, they can go straight to the website, which is my screen SCREEN hub.com, myscreenhub.com, or they can go directly to Eventbrite, which is Kush Kush Films online.eventbrite.co.uk. Thank
you very much. So look, Nathan, you're an actor, you're a comedian, you're also a writer. You're one of your biggest, I shouldn't say one of your first, one of your biggest TV programs was Benidorm. How was that for yourself? When you first, when your agent calls you and he says, look, I've got a reading for you, you're working with legends such as Johnny Vegas and various other people. What goes through your mindset as a young man who's now kind of made this step from the lyric theatre in front of your council estate to now national TV? What goes through your mind?
Well, it was a funny journey because I got called up and I got called up on a backup sort of vibe. So basically they'd cast an actor. An actor had dropped out for this role the day before the reading. And when I say I was broke these times, he called me and he said, look, I've got you this read through with the cast of Benidorm. They'll pay you £100 for the day. I was like, £100, banging, great. That's enough money to keep me afloat for a week, So I was just like, whatever. I'll just go there, have a nice time, whatever. But obviously, me, like if you give me an opportunity, I'm gonna make sure that what I'm gonna do in that room is gonna be as good as it can be. So I get there, the room is packed out. So there's like it's a big cast anyway, but then it's all the execs, everyone from hair and makeup. I do the read through and I smack it. And basically, long story short, at the end of that read through, they pretty much gave me the job. I did a one more casting, but that job completely changed my life. I basically lived in Spain for 3 years filming it.
Wow.
It was incredible, yeah.
So how good's your Spanish?
Oh, terrible, because it's Benidorm. Everyone's English. It's you know what I mean? There's like, I must have seen 2 Spanish people. That was it.
lived here for 3 years and speak 2 words of
Honestly,
of
the Spanish, the amount of Spanish people there was so limited. So my Spanish is nothing to be proud of.
So your passion as a writer, Nathan, because usually with people who go into acting and even being like a stand-up comedian, you know, the being in that forefront, being in front of the screen, in front of the cameras, in front of the audience. Once you get that taste, you don't really want to kind of step back away from that and go back into the, you know, behind the scenes and actually have to do all that hard grafting, hard work. Why writing for you? What was the passion and why would you why have you chosen to be a writer?
That's a good question. I think, God, I mean, the cheesy answer is that I don't think it's a real choice. I think it's like you have ideas in your head, and I'm sure it's the same with you, see, with your jokes. Like you have a joke, you have to get that joke out. Otherwise, you know, my head's going to explode. So it's the same. Like, obviously, acting was always a joy and something I've always loved. But, you know, I always had little stories. I just never know you could make a buck of it. So I was just, you know, I was just like, why? Well, also I'm really dyslexic. I struggle writing. I can't spell. My punctuation is all over. So I just thought this was never going to be a career for me, but I was completely wrong. and I think I have really good people who I work around who really help me in the side of like presenting things and, you know, all the things I'm really worried about. My team don't care about. They just care about the ideas. They care about the characters. And my dream is to, like, you know, be like a Shonda Rhimes or be like, you know, someone who just has multiple TV shows and is telling stories around the world. And I'll act in them sometimes. I won't some other times, I guess.
Well, listen, you're talking about you won't act in them. Currently, you have Bloods on Sky 1, which you're not acting in, which I haven't seen just yet. I'm just going to double check see if we've got a clip of Bloods. I know we had some technical problems earlier on, ladies and gentlemen, and that's one of the reasons why Tony Crossbody is not with us today. We had some technical problems. Hopefully we will have Tony definitely next week, but if he may join us later on. Okay, so look, Bloods is tell us the concept behind Bloods, please.
Yeah, so Bloods is a mismatched sitcom.
Oh, look, there we go.
This is what the job's all about. Out on the road, being your own boss.
Yeah, there we are. Well, it's a...
Here we go.
Okay, we got post. Yes! You see? You lot thought my man was gone. Spot me, fam.
Oh my. Are you ready? We're doing it big.
451 public healer.
Hello?
What are you doing?
I'm Wendy, your new partner.
This is what the job's all about. Out on the road, being your own boss.
Well, Joe's our boss.
Cigar?
Do they do menthol?
I don't think so, Loz. There's a sign there that says it's not a shop for absolute pussies.
Daryl.
Never get confusing.
Yeah, people do get us mixed up because we're so similar.
2 years riding with Kevin and nothing like this. One day with Geordie Shaw and I've had the worst shift of my blood clot life. We are done.
You're amazing.
You didn't do too bad yourself.
Let's go!
Caesar block. Crotch block.
I had sex with Bill last night. Front and back.
Patient on the 16th floor and the lifts aren't working. Patient, stop breathing. Over.
Yeah, me too. You don't need to start showing us respect, you know. I know you was out there clapping for us all them Thursdays.
We got that. New style, new flow.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was a clip of Nathan's show Bloods, which is on Sky One, and also Now. Did you say?
Yeah, Now TV. Yeah.
Okay, so look, so give us the little storyline behind Bloods. What's happening with it? What is it all about? Blood.
Yeah, so basically the premise of the show is like it's a mismatched sitcom about a character called Malik who sees himself as like the Denzel Washington of the streets, and he's a paramedic. And he thinks he's really popular and he thinks he's loved by his community, but he's not. And then there's Jane Horrocks, who plays Wendy, who's come down from Nottingham, and she's got a big secret that I won't reveal. And she wants to meet
no spoilers.
She wants to, no spoilers. She wants to, get really friendly and get to know everyone. And basically, the first series is kind of an odd buddy sitcom of how these two people from two different worlds come together to become best friends. And in that, we kind of get a real big peek in what it is to be a paramedic in this day and age. And it's got an amazing support cast with like Lucy Punch, Julian Barrett, Asya Shah, Adrian Scarborough, KG, Sam Campbell. I can carry on. And I co-created it with Samson, and it's the proudest thing I feel proud of it. Basically, I feel really proud of it.
Well, listen, all I can say to you, Nathan, is I watched it, and Blood. I told you I'm going to be brutally honest, brother. I absolutely loved it. It is so good. It is so good.
That to me. I was so scared. Don't do that to me.
It is so good. I literally was just smiling and nodding my head through it. It was just like, oh my God, this is so good. Oh my God, this is so good. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. The characters are amazing. And again, it's not just even the two main characters. As you said, the supporting characters are just brilliant. The acting, the direction, it just all comes together so nicely. And, even though the cast is sprinkled with black actors, it doesn't feel like it's it just feels like it's a program for everybody. And and it's a proper reflection of life and London life and people working together, coming together to get a job done or not done. And my brother, I can say I'm extremely proud of what you and Samson have created. It was an absolutely joy watching it.
See, honestly, that is a joy coming from a legend like you. So I really appreciate it because I didn't know what you were going to say.
Yeah. I thought I'd say it to you live. I say it to you live.
Man, it was obviously fun to do because when me and Sam first came together, obviously I'm not a paramedic, Sam's not a paramedic, and it was really amazing to kind of delve into the world of paramedics. I've had lots of lunches and talking to them and picking their brains. I've read loads of paramedics' diaries. There's quite a lot of books on the internet where paramedics just journal their lives. So before doing the show, I really just got into the world, man. I was like, and I think what hopefully the show showcases is a really dark sense of humor that paramedics have to exist because their life is so intense, So it was just thank you.
Well, I think I'm gonna get a couple of my friends who are in the profession, like one of my old school friends. He is an actual paramedic, so I'm gonna hit him up this week and get him to watch it and find out what his thoughts and feelings are. But total credit to you, man. There's no time at all when I'm watching it do I even think about anything else. I'm totally immersed in the whole story. But look, I think one of the things as well is the use of language in it is just absolutely brilliant. The fact that you've managed to get on Sky TV an advert which says "Blood Clot Life" will stay with me for a long time.
I don't think they know what it means.
I'm sure they don't. There's like, okay, well, that's what happens. That's when we got the CPR. We're pressing on the chest because he's got a blood clot, hasn't he?
Oh. I'm gonna watch that.
Yeah. I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite lines is it's getting Jane Horrocks to say. I think she's got a line where she's talking about her sex life, and she's saying that she wants to ride someone's ting off, and I was just like, watching her say that, I was just like, wow, okay, because that's what we want the show to be. We want it to be a mismatch of language, but not in the sense of like something I'm not that fond of. People mocking language. So I don't like anyone trying to mock slang or anything like that. Whereas what I do like is when it naturally overlaps because you're around people. Do you know what I mean? You pick up words, and that's what's beautiful with language. And I think that's what we were trying to do in this, is that if you ever hear Jane or anyone use any slang, it's because she's around Malik, and that's how he talks, and that's what she would do. But she never takes the lick, you know?
And that is the good thing about it. You can almost see the assimilation from all parties, because usually, you know, it tends to be whoever's the majority in a country that other people try to assimilate to that particular culture. But what you're showing in this is the correct depiction of how, like, you know, black culture has seeped into the main culture as well, i.e. trying to be cool, trying to say the right things, you know, the way how people approach each other as well. So it's got all those little nuances in there as well, which is, yeah, man.
You know, it was nice just that, you know, two young black guys had the opportunity to create a Sky One sitcom. I mean, we are blessed. Obviously, I wrote it with Paul Doolan, who's an incredible writer, and the team are just the best in the entire world. But me and Sam were really blessed to have Sky support us through that, actually.
Which is good. I mean, look, I think it's a new day and it's a new dawn. So look, gents, I just want to, before we round things up, I just want to touch on a few subjects in the news, if you don't mind, and get your thoughts and views on it, and also those who are watching online. In fact, what I should do is pick up on some of the comments and everything. Jackie Pearson says, "Well done, Nathan and Marlon. Keep up the good work."
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Amazing, Nathan. Keep on doing what you're doing. Keep on writing. Hand claps. Adriana Evans gives both of you an amazing round of applause as well. So, you know, just from the community for what both of you are actually doing to keep us entertained and enlightened, and the levels that you're delivering such great quality and great service. We just want to say thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
So look, I just want to pick up on a couple of the things which has happened during the week, and that's why we call the show "What a Week." The first thing I want to pick up on is Alan Carr's epic game show, which for those of you who are not familiar with it, it's a primetime Saturday night TV show where the comedian Alan Carr goes back in time and picks up some of those fantastic game shows what we used to have on a Saturday night and represents them to an audience with a panel. Last week, he actually went back and did Michael Barrymore's Strike It Lucky. So for those of you who remember it, this is where you go along the panel and you ask questions, and sometimes you may get a hot spot, you get an arrow which sends you through, and you get a lovely moment where you can win a prize and you can bank it, etc. For the first time, I saw on national TV a game show which featured an all-black panel. And I was like blown away. I was like, mirror. Oh, what is me I see? It was like, wow. And it stuck in my mind. It's like, I don't, you know, like when you see a moment, you think, hold on, has this happened before? So we had a beautiful set of twin sisters. We had a mother and a daughter, and we had two black male friends. And it was just wonderful watching them compete in this game show, and yeah, it was fantastic. I don't know, did you guys actually see the show at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay, Marlon, yourself?
Surprisingly, I don't know how I saw it. Because I don't watch. I'm not really a TV fan. I don't really watch TV, and definitely not on a Saturday night.
Yeah,
definitely not on a Saturday night. But somehow I was in between me trying to find a movie to watch or something. I turned over and I saw it, and believe me, it was the same thing what you just said. I was shocked because I saw one black couple, then I saw another black couple. Yeah, I saw another black couple, and it was all the contestants were black. And I thought, what's going on here? And the minute I saw that, I knew there was going to be a problem. I said, what's going on there? I said, but all them white people have turned off their TVs now, right? They must have turned off their TVs because I couldn't believe it. And actually, it was quite good. It was quite entertaining. It was there was lots of jokes and stuff, and they actually made me watch it. I actually watched the whole show. I think I actually maybe turned over just right at the end, and I missed the last maybe couple of minutes of it, and then I turned back. I think, and I did. I think the two guys won, if I remember right.
That's correct. Yeah. Well, they got through to the end, and they decided to bank at the right time for them. Yeah.
They played. There's all the tactics in the world. They didn't answer the questions right. The girls answered the questions, but they were too brave. So and I was a bit surprised at that myself. But actually, it was unusual. It was unusual. To tell the truth, for the last year, this is what I do. I work in the industry. So for the last year, I'm just sitting down there and I'm just watching all these adverts. And every single advert that comes on, I'm seeing all these black people, and then I'm seeing I don't know. I'm seeing, but then again, you've seen other things as you see all kinds. Now you see, there was one the other day, and there was two men in a bed, two black men, and I said, wow, this is really this like now. There's a whole raft of all different kinds of things that and it's all black. But then, what are the white folks really thinking when they're seeing all these? Some of them, their blood must be boiling. Because every single advert now has got a black person in it.
Well, yeah. Well, look, the Ofcom received 190 complaints, which for me is quite refreshing. Because if you look at the fact that the UK has a population of 66 million, and if 190 people can complain about something, which I don't know what the viewing figures were, 190, it just goes to show that these small-minded people are small in minorities as well, and numbers as well. However, yeah, they did complain, almost like it was like they were saying, are they watching Strike It Africa? Good evening, Tony Crossbody. How you doing, sir?
Oh man, how you doing, Mr. C? Good evening, Marlon. Good evening, Nathan.
Good evening.
I've been watching the show behind the scenes, unfortunately, while I'm getting some technical issues sorted out.
No worries.
Well, listen,
sorry, I'm late. Couldn't be helped, unfortunately, but we're here now.
No problem, man. You can't keep a good man down. You can't keep a good man down, man. So, Tony, did you manage to see the Strike It Lucky with Alan Carr, the game show, which featured the UK's first, I believe, all-black panel?
No, I missed that. I do have to say though, I have been to some of Cush's events though over the years, supporting what Marlon's doing. So I was very interested to see, to hear his story about how he got started. I'm not so much of a TV watcher now, but I did sort of see some news about it.
Yeah. Well, listen, some racist viewers took to Twitter and to complain why there was no white people playing. So my response to that particular person, I shouldn't say person, forgive me, viewers, that particular racist, my viewpoint would, well, you know what, we'd happily swap our 6 black contestants for your 1 white presenter. So that seems to me like a fair trade. Because you do realize the contestants don't get paid to So I nominate Nathan or Marlon to now take over Alan Carr's epic game show.
Me?
I'm happy to leave it to him. I'm happy to leave it to him. And I also think that those complaints are so ridiculous because you know, how many times have we seen game shows when there's not a
single
person, anybody, like there's no black person even would think to be like, where's my phone? Let me get Ofcom's number. Let me lodge an official, because we have things to do. We have things to do, places to be.
Yeah, real things to do and real problems to face, which are caused by various other institutionalized systems. Also in the news, and we'll probably finish on this news coverage. Dalian Atkinson, former footballer, who in was it 2016, I believe, was going through a period of distress in his life where his mental capacity to think and act was greatly reduced. He found himself at the house of his father. His father, seeing that his son was not in the right frame of mind, called the police, or I do believe neighbors called the police, of which 2 police officers arrived, PC Monk and PC Ellen Betley Smith. Seeing Dalian Atkinson in a troubled and distressed manner, they proceeded to arrest him. However, in doing that, they decided to taser Dalian Atkinson. All tasers have a safety mechanism on there where the taser discharge will only operate for 3 seconds. However, you have the ability to override that by continuously pressing the trigger. So again, I'll just make it clear that safety time for the tasers are 3 seconds. These police officers tasered Dalian Atkinson for 33 seconds. And whilst he was on the floor being tasered, they repeatedly shouted commands to him, such as keep still, stay down. Now, I'm not an expert on electricity, ladies and gentlemen. However, I do realize that when you're being shocked, your body involuntarily moves. You haven't got control of your bodily functions. So to which the officer decided, whilst he was still being tasered and he was on the floor, to kick him in his head with his boot. Such was the force that the imprint of the laces was found to still be on Dalian Atkinson's forehead. Numerous witnesses said that they actually saw the police officer repeatedly kick him. One witness actually said they saw the police officer, the male police officer, PC Monk, raise his foot and stamp down on Dalian Atkinson's head at least 3 times. And also another witness report said that the female police officer, Betley Smith, seemed to be absolutely frightened and therefore took out her baton and started to hit Dalian Atkinson with the baton as well. Subsequently, later on, Dalian Atkinson died of a heart attack, and these 2 police officers are now in court charged with his murder. Are you guys familiar with the story? What are your thoughts and feelings as regards to this particular event?
I am familiar with it. I've seen it. I've heard about it from probably the time, and then, you know, it's a shame it's taken this long to even get to court, because it sounds like a complete miscarriage of justice, and it sounds like murder. And all we can hope and pray for is that these officers are sent down for murder. And, you know, it is just terrible. It's awful. It's even you repeating it, it's just like, it's trauma, isn't it?
It sure is, man. It sure is. Marlon, your thoughts? I mean, obviously you're a Broadwater farm man, so you know you've seen this thing so many times, man. Go on.
Well, you just went right there, mate. You just went right there. Don't drag me back, please, because you know, we don't tolerate that kind of foolishness. You know what I mean? We will react to it, and you know me. I'm not a talker. I'm a doer. So you know, I don't play with police, and they don't play with me. So yeah. I mean, remember, we grew up watching Dalian Atkinson play football, and I still remember that goal, that fantastic goal that he scored, beating a whole team almost and scoring it. That used to be on Match of the Day, the start of Match of the Day, remember? We used to watch that. So I knew exactly who Dalian Atkinson is. So, I mean, I didn't know. I read about it at the time when it happened, but then when I saw the news report just recently, and it was about the court case, and that the policeman had actually kicked him, stamped in his head. I mean, you said he was tasered for 33 seconds. If I remember right, they said that for some reason they tasered him 6 times, because the first time they tasered him, it fell out or it didn't have much of an effect. So it was 6 different times that they actually tasered him, until they felt he was basically
subdued.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's the word. I don't know what's the word. Yeah, they just wanted to be able to have him, that they could take advantage of him, and then you're going to kick him in his head. Well, yeah, please, yeah, I don't even want to, because I get emotional, these kind of things, you know what I mean? So,
I hear you, man.
Yeah,
As Nathan said, it's still traumatic just listening to it and
yeah, absolutely.
Tony, your thoughts?
It's common police practice in America to say things like "stay still, don't move, lie down," while simultaneously stamping on your head and strangling you to death. And this is very important for the police, because what happens when it goes to court, they will have witnesses who would have heard those commands. And these expressions are used basically to soften up the sentences that these police would likely get. This has happened a lot, in fact. So as they were tasering, they had him down on the floor. They could shout those commands and stamp him on the head and do that, because they know that procedures, when you go to court, the judge will say, well, what was said? How do you restrain the individual in a reasonable manner? Well, I told him, don't move, lay still, but he wouldn't. So I kept, this is how it's going to come out. And normally with these procedures, what happens is the case goes from murder to manslaughter.
Well, look, I mean, from my memory, to be honest with you, I can't remember a British police officer ever being charged with murder before.
Yeah, it's true.
I just can't remember it, really and truly.
You know what that is, isn't it? The evidence must be strong against them. It must be.
Yeah, and also I think, we are living in unprecedented times as regards to seeing things change as regards to the way how we're being viewed, and how those who are, how can I put it, who are systematically being trying to do certain things against us are now being held to justice, basically. We saw it with George Floyd. Because again, look, I mean, in our lifetime, how many times have we seen a police officer absolutely brutalize and kill black people, and not even get so much as a slap on the wrist, but instead get the rest of their working years off with a full pension, and then a book deal and a film deal, most likely. Whereas now we're seeing them actually being convicted of murder, and in the UK, we'll have to watch this case and see what happens and where this leads. But I've got a little feeling that these police officers will be serving time.
I hope so. That's all we can hope. We have to hope.
Well, let's see. Yeah, we hope so as well.
Yeah. And if they don't, then I'm sure that there will be a peaceful demonstration as regards to how people feel about what is not taking place.
You don't see that they brought out new laws today in the Queen's speech about peace, about demonstrations. The police have got new powers.
Oh, please enlighten us.
Something. It came on and it just, you hear it, and I just sort of turned it off basically. But yeah, they've brought in new powers to stop particular demonstrations, and the police have been given that now. So I mean, you guys would need to go and research it a bit further and find out a bit more. But to tell you the truth, I don't try to bog myself down with all those things. Let them do what they're doing. I do what I do. I'll focus on moving forward in life. So I don't focus too much on the news. Otherwise, you get depressed.
100%. So listen, gentlemen, we're coming up to the time where we round up this part of the show, and we're going to hand over to Tony Crossbody, who's going to take us through a Black History studies. Marlon, please remind our viewers where we can catch you, where we can find you, and what's happening this Sunday, briefly.
Yeah, okay, so this Sunday, we've got the online UK film premiere of the film She's the One. You can buy tickets from www.myscreenhub.com. It's in the comments. Thank you to, is it Antigua? What's the lady's name?
Antigua Allison.
Yeah, thank you very much. God bless. Tickets are £5. I saw someone asking how much the tickets are. They're £5 plus. There's a plus sign next to it. So I'm actually trying to build a fully blown online cinema right now as well. So we're running a fundraising campaign. We're trying to raise 10K to build a fully blown online automated cinema. So when you buy a ticket, you can also support our fundraising campaign. So you can make an added donation of £5, £10 or £15. Please do so. You can find us on social media also at Kush, Kush, Kush Films Online, website kushfilms.com. And you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Marlon Palmer, or Instagram, Marlon Brando Palmer, and also Kush Films Online again, as I said. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you, Nathan, as well. I'd love to even connect with you somehow if we can connect and invite you down to some of our events.
I'll share your details.
Please.
Yeah. And also for those of you who heard Marlon speak about the donations, £5, £10 and £15, I know some of you are flush because you've been furloughing your backside, yeah? And you have a nice little cash sum. So again, some of you ladies, you finally managed to get rid of that dirty bungle at your house and you've got a nice little settlement. So if you feel that you want to make more than £15 of it as a donation, please feel free to also make an anonymous or a name donation to Marlon and Kush Films Boutique.
Okay. Can I quickly just say that on the page on myscreen.hub, we've also got a GoFundMe page as well. So there's information there. You can click on. So you can, when you buy a ticket, you can donate there, or you can just go straight to the GoFundMe page and actually make an added donation. Whatever you can do for my people and support what we're doing, we're going to build a brand new online cinema for you, differently to the screening rooms, and you can go on there, watch the latest films. It's going to be like a little Netflix, and it's owned by a black company.
Thank you very much, Marlon. He can chat, ladies and gentlemen. May I tell you something from now? He can chat.
You have to invite me back. We've not even done the Kush story yet. We just touched on the Kush story. 23 years.
We'll have you back. We'll have you back. Nathan, please, just to remind our viewers what you're working on, where they can find it, where they can see it. And most importantly, if they need to get in contact with you, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, sure. So I've created Bloods on Sky One. It's a 6-part series. You can watch it on Sky One or Sky Box Office, and Now TV. So you can watch the whole series. It's all available. And my books, Look Up and Clean Up, you can get on Waterstones, Amazon, whatever you want. And thank you so much for having me, C. So much. I really appreciate it. And it's lovely meeting you all. So yeah, thank you.
Absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. So, ladies and gentlemen, can we bid Marlon and Nathan farewell? No doubt we'll be seeing and hearing from them again. So please, a round of applause for Marlon Palmer, Kush Boutique Films, and Nathan Byron, Blood Sky One. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
And thank you to those who bought tickets, as I can see in the comments. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hand over to Tony Crossbody, who is, without a shadow of a doubt, our absolute fantastic historian when it comes to Black history. Tony Crossbody.
Honestly, I'm really sorry that I wasn't there from the beginning, listening to all that live. Fantastic story. And we know that Marlon has been a pillar in the Black community for as far as cinema and filmmaking is concerned. And also young Nathan is doing great things. So
great things, man.
We can only encourage and support them. Support their ventures because they're really doing good things. So made it just in time, see. So
I knew that, man. I know no matter what the man them is trying to do to mash up the things, I know said Jah will always find a way, Tony.
Yeah. So the thing is, we were talking last week about a very interesting subject. But before we go into it, let's put the first slide up. And for those of you who are watching for the very first time, you are welcome, very much welcome to the show. We do a Black History segment from 8 till, well, whenever I finish, really. So if we can have the first slide. And what we're going to see here, is what we looked at last week, the 10 identifying marks that clearly demonstrate that the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade are the Hebrews of the Bible. So, Mr. C, if you'd be kind enough to sort of just read each one of them, please, so we can just remind our viewers and also introduce new viewers to what we're talking about.
So it reads, transported into slavery by ships, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. Enslaved and oppressed for 400 years, Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. Their identity would be stripped from them, Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4. Foreigners would assume their identity, Lamentations chapter 5, verse 2, and Revelations chapters 2, verse 9, and chapter 3, verse 9. Second Chronicles chapter 7, verse 20 reads, they will be ridiculed as a people. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 34, they will be the bottom of society. Galatians 3:13 and Deuteronomy 21:22 both state that they will be hung from trees. Luke 21:24 and Deuteronomy 28 and 64 read, they will be scattered to different nations. They will also be in constant fear of their life. Deuteronomy 26 verse 66 reads. And finally, from Isaiah chapter 3 verse 12, it reads, their family life would be chaotic. Women would be leading the men, and the children would also be chaotic.
Thank you. So these are 10 points, and there are many more, but I don't think we need to do any more to establish who these people are. The Bible is all about the Israelites. The Israelites are the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. Let's look at the next slide.
Hi, shalom, shalom from Israel. This is Ola, the daughter of Jethro. And I just heard that you black people that was stolen from Africa to America, that you don't know who you are. But you are the children of Yahweh, the children of Israel. And I'm telling you, you have to come back to your homeland, here to Zion, to Jerusalem.
Hello, everybody. This video is to show you who the true Hebrews or Jews are. Your true Jews or your true Yehud are the so-called black person.
I know the black people here are the true Hebrew Israelites.
And I'd like to now bring up another interesting place that you find descendants of the Israelites, but may not necessarily be from the 10 tribes, but will also play a role. And shouldn't be overlooked. It's a very serious scenario. It's in Africa. Africa has perhaps hundreds of millions of people with this identity right now of being from the people of Israel. When the Romans conquered Judea a few hundred years after the tribes of Israel went into exile, perhaps millions of Judeans were sold into slavery, into Africa, into Rome, deep into Africa. And if you look now, you're seeing people who are most likely the descendants of those slaves.
I just wanted to come to you to impart some knowledge onto you about who the true biblical Hebrew Israelites are. Bloodline-wise, they are the so-called African Americans.
The wisdom of Solomon in the Apocrypha in the 5th chapter talks about how Jacob, how the heathen is going to be amazed and confounded when they realize that the so-called black man is that chosen line.
Now, if I were to tell you that blacks, for as many centuries as whites have been superior, if you want, in the Western world, that for just as many centuries blacks were superior, you'd probably find that hard to believe. And you'd wonder how such a fact could be hidden. And the answer is, again, collusion. The whites wouldn't want to admit such a thing because whites like to feel superior and like to think that their superiority is somehow permanent, decreed by God. As for blacks, if you look into the black civilizations that we're going to take a look at momentarily, you find something pretty interesting. You find that those civilizations actually arose as Jewish civilizations, later to become...
From West Africa, they can be taken as slaves to America. Brothers and sisters, blacks of America, it's you. You are the true Hebrews. You are the true Hebrews from the Bible. America gonna do everything, gonna invest as much money as it has, gonna fight as much wars as they can, gonna invite as much weapons as they can just to hide this away from you. Gonna take Israel, gonna bring white people here, and to tell you these are the Jews. Gonna kill you, gonna kill Arabs, gonna mistreat white people like this guy, just to tell you this lie that you are nobody and we are the Jews with all the history and so on. It has been deleted, your history. You don't know who you are. Don't forget about it. This is why, because America has been taking your history away, never to find out that it's all about you. I'm telling you this, please. I don't ask you to come to Israel and to start a revolution. I'm just asking you to start thinking this way, to believe me a little bit, because I'm living in Israel and I'm part of this injustice. I really believe that people like me and you, we can bring the justice.
Because as the Gentiles, we do need you. We need you to come and pray because you are our Savior. You're the one that was chosen by Yahweh to live in this land, not the Jewish people, it's you. You were stolen from Africa, they deceived you, they told you that you are slaves, but you actually the children of Israel. And it's time just to come back. Come for your people, come back for us, come back for the whole Gentiles, because only you gonna save us. So please come back to that.
Wow.
Right. So there you have eyewitness testimony. You have this testimony from the Bible itself, identifying who you are. Next slide, please. And the thing is, the curious thing is, Mr. C, a lot of people would ask, why did this situation that we find ourselves in come upon us? And I think this scripture here, taken from Psalms 106, will explain it. If you'd read that for us, please.
It reads, finally, Lord, you were angry and terribly disgusted with your people, so you put them in the power of nations that hated them. They were mistreated and abused by their enemies, but you saved them time after time. They were determined to rebel, and their sins caused their downfall.
So we can see here, Mr. C, reading the scripture, this pretty much gives you the history of the ancestors. We saw last week, didn't we? We looked at a lot of cases of what happened when the Israelites were in Egypt, how when Moses went to deliver them, they told Moses, we ain't going nowhere.
We like it here.
Yeah, we like it here. We like the McDonald's and we like the Burger King and we like the Nando's and the Raven. And we have no desire to move out.
Yeah, there ain't no KFC in the desert, blood. Blood's not going out.
Right. And they were moaning, complaining, and obviously that upset God very much, so that he had to send serpents behind them. They were killed. He made them walk 40 years in the desert. And out of the 3 million approximate people that left Egypt of that original generation, only 2 actually got into the promised land. That's how bad things were. And then you recall, Mr. C, we went through the book of Judges, where we read story after when they went into the promised land, they served the Lord for a while, and then what happened after a little while? What do they do?
And then start make up new gods and start cavort and different kind of dancing and all kind of stupidness.
Right.
And then they got taken over. They got enslaved. There's people invading their lands, and again they beg for forgiveness, and then God will sort out their problems, and after a while, 10 years, 12 years, then come back with the same stupidness again.
Right. So, how can we liken this? It's nowhere near it, but I'll give you a little adage, Mr. C. You've got a partner, and you and her together, but she's not exactly faithful, right? You catch her out, you say it's over, right? You leave her, and then she comes back, she comes crying back to you, you take her back. Or ladies, you've got a man in your life who's like this, comes crying back, you take him back. And as soon as you take him back and things go well, he goes back again on his merry horns, seeing different women. How many times are you going to keep doing this before you actually say it's over?
These are just examples, ladies and gentlemen. Don't think that Tony's talking about your own personal life. These are just examples.
Examples, right. So notice, look, the last sentence of that scripture there says, look, they were determined to rebel. Saying good evening to Miss Sugar Sweet. How are you? Welcome to the show. right? They were determined to rebel. So it was an attitude of heart, right? Right? It wasn't that they mistakenly worshiped these gods and they made a mistake. No, they were determined to do it. And so their sins caused their downfall. This is what's led to the transatlantic slave trade, the most brutal and far-reaching enslavement and oppression that this nation has ever known. That brings us to where we are now. Now, what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the future and what's coming. But as always, to actually discuss the future, I just got to go back to the past. So if we can have the next slide up, please. So the forefather, Mr. C, of the Hebrews is a man called Abraham, right? And he was a very, very faithful man. He was so faithful, in fact, that God promised that his descendants would be given land in which they were to live and that they would be his special people. Next slide, please. So we're going to look at that now in this slide here, Mr. C. If you can just read this verse here so we can get an understanding.
So this is taken from Genesis chapter 15, verse 18. In the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, unto thy seed here I've given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates.
Right. So what you're looking at there, ladies and gentlemen, is a map of what's known as the Middle East. Okay. There's no such thing really. It's a construct, but that's what let's call it that for argument's sake. Mr. C, if you see that little circle to sort of the left, that little circle is Israel today, right? That is the nation today. The dotted line, Mr. C, what do you think that is?
That is the land what was given to Abraham by the Lord.
That is the promised land that you're looking at there. That is approximately 50 to 60 times bigger than what is inhabited currently. Next slide. So because of Abraham, that promise was, and you see, God cannot go back on his promise. However, there is a warning, Mr. C.
2 Chronicles chapter 7 verse 19 reads, but if you turn away and forsake the decrees and commands I have given you, and you go off to serve other gods and worship them, then I will uproot Israel from my land which I have given.
Thank you. So the consequences of forsaking God, turning our back, doing our own thing is uprooted, right? So uprooted, I always remember when I figured that word uproot, I always figured that time when I had to have a tooth taken out and had to have it pulled out by the root, right? No longer there. There's a gap when you have your tooth uprooted. So these people were uprooted. The ancestors were uprooted from their land and they are scattered as of today. Next slide. But notice, Mr. C, something very interesting that God has also promised. They are uprooted. But if you could read that section for us, just to give everybody some context of where we are going.
So Deuteronomy chapter 30 verse 1 reads, and this is what Moses is saying to Israel in the context of the Lord will bring you back. I have told you everything the Lord your God will do for you. And I've also told you the curses he will put on you if you reject him. He will scatter you away. He will scatter you in faraway countries. But when you realize that he is punishing you, return to him with all your heart and soul and obeying the commands I have given to you today. Then he will stop punishing you and treat you with kindness. He may have scattered you to the farthest countries of the earth, but he will bring you back to the land that you had belonged to your ancestors and make you even more successful and powerful than they ever were.
Thank you. So notice again the warning about forsaking God and being scattered into faraway countries. That is where you are now. Not just the UK, not just USA, but Brazil, Colombia, all of South America, in Asia, in India, scattered all over the world,
Europe,
like the Middle East. That is where you are. But notice, there's a very interesting line in that verse. Notice what he says. He says, but when you realize, when you realize that he is punishing you, Mr. C, how do people realize this?
Listen, you've got to take accountability for your actions. You've got to look at what's been done, and then what you do is you apologize. You apologize, and as it says, return to him with all your heart and soul, and start obeying the commands I've given to you today.
Good. So shows like this allow people to realize the history of the ancestors, because up till now and up to recently, we have always believed that, well, we are descendants of African slaves, right, taken from various tribes. But on this platform, we have demonstrated that the people that were taken from West Africa, from Central, from Southern Africa, actually were Hebrews. Slavevoyages.org, for anybody who's interested in looking up that website, which has the manifests of the slave journeys that were taken across the Atlantic. If you type in Hebrew names on that website, you will see manifests come up, lists and lists of people with Hebrew names, their names before it was changed. So Most High says, when you realize that he's punishing you, in other words, when you start to understand who you are, when you start to understand that the Bible actually lines up with your history, your personal history, and the history of your ancestors, then you will return to him. You will start paying attention to him. Your life will not be centered around just pleasure seeking because you don't know who you are. Mm-hmm. You will now start to realize you have a real identity. And what did the Most High say he's going to do, Mr. C, near the bottom of those verses?
He says he will bring you back to the land that had belonged to your ancestors, and make you even more successful and powerful than they ever were.
What land is this, Mr. C?
And this is Israel. This is the promised land.
Right. What was the promise? That it was that map that we saw earlier. Recall?
Yeah. So it's the whole of that Saudi Arabia kind of region, the Middle East, as they call it now, region.
Right. That is the promised land. Next slide. And just to basically confirm this, in Genesis 15, Mr. C, you've read this. You must have read this so many times. I bet you can do it blindfolded. You read it again.
Right. Abraham, you will live to an old age and die in peace. But I solemnly promise that your descendants will live as foreigners in a land that does not belong to them. They will be forced into slavery and abused for 400 years. But I will terribly punish the nation that enslaves them, and they will leave. And they will leave with many possessions.
Thank you. Jemmy Reese asked, how do you link those names with yours? Jemmy, you can't. The only thing that the site actually proves is that the slaves were Hebrews. It's pretty much impossible to actually make that link now.
Yeah, because what's happened is that is one of the main reasons why we were not allowed to use our names during the capturing of the African people, so that there was a severance between the holy names which we had and the slave names now which were given. So again, it's that disconnect from the Almighty and from your heritage and from your history.
Thank you. Now, but fear not, because of course the Most High knows what your name is. He knows what your family line is. So that we're going to see that is going to be replaced, right? So that's going to be replaced now.
And sorry, Tony, just before you said that, and also Jemmy, when you look at that voyage page, that what's it called again, Tony? The
slavevoyages.org. Someone just put in the chat, please. Slavevoyages.org.
Well, you'll see a range of names which we used to have. So those people who want to realign back with our original names, you can use it as a template for start choosing names which were our real names, our real surnames, our real forenames. You can use that as a template to start renaming ourselves or renaming our children or grandchildren, and identifying ourselves back with our original names. Sorry, Tony.
No problem. So let's look at this particular verse you just read in detail, Mr. C. Now look, God has promised. Now this is what's so amazing. This was this account took place 4,000 years ago, right? And in that, God foretold that the descendants of Abraham would be forced into slavery and abused for 400 years. We've previously seen that they were transported by ships. So we don't have to look very far to find out who they are. But what's interesting, right, is the last part of this verse where it says, God says, I will terribly punish the nation that enslaves them. So it's actually speaking about one particular nation, right? Mm-hmm. A nation that has held on to the Hebrews for 400 years. Now, we know that there are many other nations that have had the Hebrews for more than 400 years, for example, like Brazil and many of the countries in South America. But this one is a very specific number of 400 years. And God has promised that after that time, punishment will be meted out to this nation. And not only that, the Hebrews within that nation will leave with what, Mr. C?
Many possessions. Many
possessions, which is another way of saying...
They got to take back with things.
Reparations. Thank you very much. Reparations. This is how reparations is going to come about. Okay. So now we're going to focus on this nation. Right? And we're going to identify this nation right to the T as the Bible only can. Next slide. Mr. Z, would you read that first, please?
Isaiah 47, verse 5. Sit in silence. Go into darkness, queen city of the Babylonians. No more will you be called queen of kingdoms. I was angry with my people and desecrated my inheritance. I gave them into your hand, and you showed them no mercy.
Right. So we have a people here called Babylonians, right? So this is obviously an ancient name of an ancient kingdom. Now, since the Bible doesn't have the name of modern day kingdoms, it has given us a clue using cryptic names. Mm-hmm. So let's have a look at this description of Babylon to see who this might be. So Babylon is described as the queen city or the queen of kingdoms. Mr. C, if something is referred to as queen of kingdoms or queen of nations, what would we expect that nation to be? Do you think?
Oh, it's good. I'd expect it to be a replica of something else.
Okay. So so the idea of queen though represents hierarchy.
Yeah.
Rulership represents royalty. So if you are the queen of kingdoms, what it is telling us is that you are the top of the food chain as far as kingdoms are concerned.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I've always looked as right. So, for example, the Queen of Kingdoms to me is America, but the King of Kingdoms to me is the UK, because America was born out of British rule. But that's just my opinion.
No. That's fine. And you know what? We're gonna get to that. But that's a very interesting concept, which is not too far off from what we're going to be talking about. Because notice, right, that this Queen of Kingdoms, or the top kingdom, in other words, the top kingdom took the people of God and showed them no mercy. Showed them no mercy. Now, some people say, no, but this is talking about ancient Babylon. How can you say it's talking about anything modern? Well, very easily. Because we know that in ancient Babylon, the Israelites did go into captivity, but they lived
400 years.
No, but they lived very well. It was a 70-year captivity they spent in Babylon, in the original Babylon. And in that Babylon, they had businesses, they had not cars, but they did well. They had houses, they had vineyards. They were actually not enslaved in the original Babylon 70 years. So in other words, much like how we're living now, is how the ancient ancestors lived in the original Babylon. And they spent 70 years in captivity. But in this Babylon, God says that you showed them no mercy.
There were more indentured servants in the original Babylon than slaves.
See, they probably weren't even that, because they were actually working for themselves. They were allowed to flourish as their community. But what they couldn't do is they couldn't leave Babylon. Babylon had an ancient reputation that when it captured you, you could never leave. And God said, after 70 years, I will free you from there. And in one night, they were freed, in one day, right, without even a fight. So that was the ancient Babylon. So now we have another Babylon, which says that they showed God's people no mercy. So this must be another Babylon, not the original Babylon. Next slide. Next slide again. We just read that. No, it's fascinating, Mrs. You're gonna see. We're gonna see how we unlock this. Next slide.
Whoa. Apologies for any people who are watching with their children if these images you find to be quite harrowing. However, we have to sometimes look back at things which happened in our past in order to have a greater understanding. So the reading is from Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 49 reads, Babylon must fall because of Israel slain, just as the slain in all of the earth have fallen because of Babylon. So again, this is a kind of a reminder, if you're looking at these images, that these are some of the atrocities which were applied and put onto our people. And for these types of wickedness, that there will be suitable punishment. Tony.
Thank you. So what we're establishing here now is that this city called Babylon in biblical prophecy, right, they are holding on to the Hebrews. They are merciless with them. They don't want to let them go. And they are described as the Queen of Kingdoms. In other words, the top kingdom.
Yeah, sorry, man. Can we move this picture on forward, please? It's really, it's jarring me, man. It's making my blood boil. I'm sorry, people.
Next slide.
Yeah, please. Yeah, sorry, Tony. Continue.
Yeah. So read this one, let me see, just to make the point.
So Isaiah chapter 13, verse 19 says, Babylon, the jewel of kingdoms, the pride and glory of the Babylonians, will be overthrown by God like Sodom and Gomorrah.
So again, notice Babylon is described as the jewel of kingdoms, right? A bright jewel, the queen of kingdoms. What will happen to it according to God's judgment, Mr. C?
It'll be overthrown by God, just like Sodom and Gomorrah.
So that comes from the prophet Isaiah. Now, if you know the story about Sodom and Gomorrah, fire and brimstone was put upon the city was judged, and no one ever lived there again. So it's interesting that God makes the comparison in the Bible with his intentions with this Babylon. Next slide. How is it the Most High going to do this? How is he going to do it, Mr. C? Would you read that for us, please?
So again, Isaiah 13, the Lord Almighty is mustering an army for war. They come from faraway lands, from the ends of the heavens. The Lord and the weapons of his wrath to destroy the whole country.
How do you think we can explain this verse, Mr. C? How is God going to bring an end to the modern day Babylon that is the United States of America?
Well, it's saying that they're going to come from faraway lands, from the ends of the heavens, and the Lord and the weapons of his wrath to destroy the whole country.
Right. But notice at the very first verse, it says that God is mustering an army
for war.
And we're going to take a look at that as we look at the next slide. Next slide, please. Jeremiah 50. Would you read that for us, Mr.
The attack on the Babylonians will come from the north, and they and their animals will run, leaving the land empty.
Right. So the whole of Jeremiah chapter 50 and 51 is about this attack that's coming on Babylon. Okay, Babylon, the queen of kingdoms, who have mercilessly dealt with God's people, and will not let them go. Now, when these verses were written, as you're looking at the map, the circle is where it was written from. So when it talks about from the north, Mr. C, the north is where the arrow is pointing. So that's the north that the Bible is talking about. And we're going to see in a second who is in that north. And we're going to see what's going to happen. Next slide. Mr. C?
Jeremiah 50 continues, says, the Lord says, far to the north, a nation and its allies have been awakened. They are powerful and ready for war. Bows and arrows and swords are in their hands. The soldiers are cruel and show no pity. The hoofbeats of their horses echo like ocean waves crashing against the shore. The army has lined up for battle and is coming to attack you, people of Babylonia.
So again, Babylon, the top-ranking kingdom of the world, the queen of kingdoms, the jewel of kingdoms, the ones who have held onto God's people and treated them without mercy. God has dictated from out of the north, a nation and its allies have been awakened. Are they weak? Are they soft? No, they are powerful. And notice, Mr. C, ready for war. That means that they have all the equipment necessary to war. Right? It says that the soldiers are cruel and they show no pity. And this army has been lined up for battle and is coming to attack you, people of America. That is who Babylon represents. Now, if you think right now what I'm saying is actually crazy, I understand, right? You might be thinking I need my medication to be coming up with stuff like this. Next slide. But as you can see, ladies and gents, there is no smoke, or surely there's not going to be any fire without the smoke. So what God is talking about is actually already starting to bubble up. Why? Because we have nations already who are awakened. They were awakened militarily. 30, 40 years ago, the nations that we're going to be discussing of the North basically could never compete with America militarily, let alone think about attacking. Yeah, here we are in 2021 in the Telegraph. Even the Telegraph is predicting a future war with China and Russia. This is mainstream press. Next slide. Even the Financial Times can see this coming, right? China and Russia will test Biden. Next slide. China versus Russia versus America. Is 2021 the year Orwell's 1984 comes true? Well, we don't know if it's going to be 2021, so we don't want to put a date on it. But it is interesting to see that the mainstream media are not blind to the possibility of actually what's going on in the geopolitical arena. Right? So it's interesting that they're actually talking about the possibility of something happening. Where the Most High said, these are the armies that he's mustering for war. Next slide. Can you read that verse, please?
Far to the north, a nation and its allies have been awakened. They are powerful and ready for war.
So we are going to see they are from the north. Remember, we looked at that map with the arrow, and it says a nation and its allies. So that nation to the north is Russia. Who are the allies of Russia? Let's have a look. Next slide. So these are the main allies of Russia, which are namely Brazil, India, China, and South Africa. They're all part of what's called BRICS, which is basically, an organization which is kind of like the NATO. It is an opposing organization. They do business between themselves, right? These are the close allies of Russia. Next slide. Isn't it strange to see that even the press is now talking about America's day of running the show is coming to an end, and then has the other two top boys who have very big armies. I think China's got an army of 2.1 million men, and Russia, who were all updating. I don't know if you saw a couple of days ago, Russia had their Victory Day parade featuring their awesome weapons. But it's interesting that the world is actually talking about these two particularly and what they intend to do. Yet, the Most High had it recorded that nations would be taking Babylon down. Next slide. Would you read that first, Mr. Sid?
Jeremiah 50, verse 23 reads, Babylonia has a hammer pounding every country, but now it lies broken. What a shock to the nations of the world.
So this is going to be the aftermath once Babylon is taken down, right? The Bible says that Babylonia was a hammer pounding every country. In other words, it destroyed and killed most countries in the world. And I just put that report up for those who can see it. Right? That says that there are only 3 countries America hasn't invaded. This was not true of ancient Babylon. Ancient Babylon was not a hammer around the world. They were pretty much a regional power. But the Bible says that this Babylon is a hammer pounding every country. And so God has determined that it must be destroyed. Let's look at the reasons one more time so we can make sure that we understand why God has judgment in store for them. Next slide. You see?
Babylon must fall because of Israel's slain, just as the slain in all the earth have fallen because of Babylon.
So notice that there's 2 reasons why God has determined that America must fall. 1, because of what it's done to his people. 2, the other people of the world they have killed. And they do have a history of genocide.
Definitely. Iraq war, man.
Right?
Oh, man.
So God has to call them to account. Next slide. Now we're going to look at a warning. I wonder if we can just explode that, please. Or can we enlarge that so Mrs. E can see it?
I can read it.
Is it? Right. So this is a warning that God has given to his people who are in Babylon.
The Lord offers hope to his people. So get out of Babylon, my people, and run for your lives before I strike the city in my anger. Don't be afraid or lose hope throughout, though year after year there are rumors of leaders fighting for control in the city of Babylon. The time will come when I will punish Babylon's false gods. Everyone there will die, and the whole nation will be disgraced when an army attacks from the north.
Thank you. So again, armies attacking from the north. But I want to point out a couple of things that are quite interesting in this verse, right? So what God says, get out of Babylon, my people. Who would those be?
His people.
His people. Exactly. So his people that are still in Babylon right now, they are being warned to get out and do what? Run for their lives. All right. Now, why? It says, because before I strike the city in my anger. So God is determined to strike America because he's very angry with them, right? Now, just look at this next verse. This is very interesting. It really sort of stood out to me, right? It says, don't be afraid or lose hope. This is God talking to his people, right? Don't be afraid or lose hope, though year after year, there are rumors of leaders fighting for control. So what have we got? What situation do we just come out of this whole election thing, Trump and Biden, and all the accusations that Trump, he didn't want to leave, and all this stuff about you know, the election was rigged and so forth and so on. So these are leaders vying for power. There's talk that Trump wants to come back in 2024 for the American election there. He's trying to influence the his Republican Party to try and get many of members in Congress for 2022. So I just thought that this verse was quite interesting, that, you know, we still, you know, America is very much a polarized place and very divided, certainly politically, right? So the Most High is going to come and deal with America. Next slide.
Isaiah 47, verse 11 reads, "Disaster will come upon you, and you will not know how to conjure it away. A calamity will fall upon you, and you cannot ward off with a ransom. A catastrophe you cannot foresee will suddenly come upon you."
So again, this is in reference to Babylon, which is the United States of America, the jewel of kingdoms, the queen of kingdoms, the people who have the Hebrews within their gates, who have been merciless to them and have had them for 400 years. Most High has pointed out the judgment on them will come, and his people will have to flee. Mr. C, the judgment is going to be total on the United States. Can you imagine, just use your imagination, what effect that would have on the world?
A massive effect, absolutely massive. It'll be the biggest shift in living history.
Right. So you have a situation right now where, unlike any other time in history, it is now actually possible. There are powers in the world that combined could do the job. The Most High says that it is a nation from the north and their allies, not just one nation alone. So a confederation of nations could do the job. The Most High is taking credit for that, because he says that I have mustered them for war. I have awoken them. Now, bear in mind that the UK is a very close partner with the United States. So I can guarantee that we would be heavily affected by that. Now, the interesting thing is, how is this going to affect us here in the UK? Is the UK mentioned in the Bible? Mr. C alluded to it earlier on when we were talking. And what is this second Exodus going to look like? Guess what? You're going to have to come back next week for me to tell you.
I had a feeling it was going to be a Buddha moment.
There's so much detail in this. I would not be doing it justice by trying to squeeze it in. I had to lay the foundation, Mr. C, of what God intends to do, that he has not forgotten his people. He knows where they are, but he's got to deal with the top nation first. That's how he's always done it. He's dealt with the top nations that have mistreated his people. He deals with them first. And then there are other countries around the world that equally have treated his people terribly. He will also be paying them a visit.
Yeah.
So next week, I'm going to talk about how the UK comes into this, how we're going to be affected, and what it's going to mean for us as a people moving forward. So hopefully you guys will tune in. Sorry if you missed the early part of the show. You can watch the recording once again. Please look up the scriptures. You know, look them up.
Do your own research.
For it. I'm trying to explain this as simply as possible so you can understand that the Most High has never forgotten about you, and that the time has come for his judgment. Mr. C.
Beautiful, Tony. Thank you so much, man. Yeah, you know, as my mum used to sing, his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. So, Tony, thank you so much again. I'd like to say a big thank you to all of our viewers who have been actively joining in the conversation tonight by placing so much questions and statements in the comments. Thank you so much. Those of you who've been sharing little bits of golden nuggets as well. Thank you so much as well. But listen, so Tony has set it. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be all about how it's going to have an effect here in the UK. Please, please, please share the information, not just with your friends, but also with your family members, and most importantly, the young ones. Ladies and gentlemen, it's important for them to know all of this information as well. It's not just our history, it's their future. So please share it, and hopefully next week we will have an even more better understanding of all of this, which this magical journey which Tony has taken us on, blessed through the Almighty to share his knowledge and wisdom with us. I hope it's been an eye-opener for you. It has definitely been an eye-opener for me. Tony, last thoughts and viewpoints?
Well, let me answer a couple of quick questions here. Mr. Spacely, yes, this is the only place where we're found. We're here every Tuesday between 7 and 9 p.m. And Jemmy, no, it's not going to be a thermonuclear war, you'd be pleased to know. So everybody will not die. The Most High is in control of how America is going to be taken down. And it won't be, the world is not going to go up in flames. Why? Because if it did, then how would he take you back to your homeland? So it will be a controlled demolition of the United States, that God will muster up his armies to take it down in the way that he sees fit. Mr. C, tell the viewers what we're doing later on this evening at 10 o'clock.
Can we tell them that, Tony?
I think we can tell them.
Okay, so later on, ladies and gentlemen, on this same platform, from what time? Is it from 10?
That's right.
From 10 o'clock, me and Tony will be both be on the After Dark show, which is an absolutely fantastic platform where the host Yvonne has invited us to partake in a conversation as regards to relationships, men and women. So please, ladies, it would be really, really important for you to join us in the conversation. And also, guys, please join. We need your thoughts. We need your viewpoints, gentlemen. Do not just leave me and Tony there to be manning up for all of you. Your viewpoints are most welcomed and most valid as well. So that's directly after our show here. We will be on After Dark from 10 until midnight. So please join us.
Until then, see you next week.
God bless. This has been What a Week. Remember to like, subscribe, and to share. Take care.
Right.
Aye. We're still live, but it doesn't matter. I want to say